we have a quorum?
We have a quorum now.
All right, perfect. So we will begin. Good evening, Littleton, and welcome to the Select Board Joint Meeting with the Finance Committee for January 19th, 2021. We will begin this evening's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
The flag
to the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So tonight's joint meeting is between the Select Board and the Finance Committee to review fiscal year 2022 departmental budget requests. We're going to begin this evening's meeting with the Police Department. That will be followed by Assessing, Human Resources, Building, ZBA, and then the Board of Health, Conservation, EHS, the Town Administrator, Fire capital requests, School Department capital requests, the Park and Rec capital requests, Cemetery Department, Highway Transfer Station. We're going to have a landfill discussion. That will be followed by accounting and then LCTV. The time slots are approximate and may shift due to department staff availability or discussion length, just so that the audience is aware. So we're going to begin this evening's meeting with the Police Department. I see we have Chief Matthew Pernard with us this evening. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. How is everybody this evening? Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So this is just a capital request. As you know, I usually put in for 2 police cruisers per year in the cycle that we've been doing for the last 10 some odd years. Due to what we have going on right now, we're just going to replace the oldest cruiser we have, which is a 2014 with over 100,000 miles on it. That car should have came out of service 2 years ago. What we did was, rather than take it out of service, we assigned it to one Sergeant Doug Landry. I'm sure you guys are aware that Doug Landry is he's a squad leader for NEMLEC SWAT team. And he's also one of the instructors for them. So a lot of specialized tools that they have that NEMLEC actually provides us with, and provides him with, that he's trained. So we decided that if we just supplied him with one car, we could actually get the life out of that car a little longer than usual. It's proven to be very helpful and beneficial to both the department and the community at whole. So we're going to try to replace that car this year. That is the only capital request I have this year. And I truly hope you guys fund it.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any questions for Chief Pernard?
How many miles does the car usually get? It wasn't that many. I mean, it seemed like a lot of years for only 100,000 miles, right?
I didn't hear you, Betsy.
How many miles do you usually expect before you turn in a car? Do you usually think about it in terms of years or in terms of miles?
No, we do it in miles. Usually we try to go between 60 to 70, and 70 being on the high end, due to the fact that that's when things start breaking down, reliability-wise, responding to calls. So this car is in some desperate need of repairs now. So we're just gonna limp it along until we can, putting minimal amount of money into it.
And why is that so much different than a personal car? I mean, 6,000 or 7,000 miles. That's back in my youth. Cars used to fall apart at that point, but now you expect them to go a lot more than that. Just curious.
Yeah. No, absolutely correct. But the engines of those cars are also running constantly. An 8-hour shift, the vehicle's running for 8 hours. Whereas, your car, you go to the store, you shut it off, you go inside the house, you shut it off. You're not parked on the side of the road running radar for an hour at a time.
Okay.
So it's a lot of work.
And when you do use it, you're hammering down on it too. So
you're going from 0 to 100.
Like a rental.
Yes.
Going under Route 2 all the time.
No, we're not on the Route 2 all the time. But yeah, we got a plan in place to replace it. Try to cut the cost by converting down to one actual one radio for that car and not putting a computer into that car itself. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Any other
You got a
questions?
new one today? You put a new one in force today? I saw on Facebook, I think.
That's from last year. It's due to COVID. We're really having a tough time getting not only just the cruiser itself, but also the parts, the sirens, the lights. All of that stuff is backed up from the factory because a lot of the factories shut down for 6 weeks at a time and really backed them up quite a bit. So the supplier, CNG Group out of Marlboro, we actually switch our light package completely around to one that we could actually get to utilize. And it's going to go a little bit against what we've been doing, is trying to keep all our cars the same. But if we stayed with the original light package that we were with, we probably wouldn't see that car for another 12 weeks.
Any other questions for Chief Bernard?
I know we spoke about a new radio system, and I know that that's part of the HCA for the 151 Taylor. Are you just assuming that's going to go through? And if it doesn't, what's the backup plan? Just limp along with what you have for another year?
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, right?
No, I think you just said it right there, Matthew. We'll limp along as much as we can, and we'll prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Okay.
Great.
Madam Chair, if I could just jump in, I just want to say thanks to Chief Bernard because he's with his capital over the past couple of years. He's definitely worked some deals out to try to help us to minimize the amount of capital that he's had to purchase. Last year with the truck with Chris Stoddard, and he played nice in the sandbox, and we realized some savings there. And by getting a couple extra years by dedicating this truck to NEMLEC Sergeant Landry, he's just being creative with ways to try to get more from the assets that he does have. So I just want to say kudos and thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Excellent.
you.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye, Tommy.
And so next on the agenda, we have the assessing department. Let's see, we have Kathy Miller on the call. There you go. Chief Rees. Kathy, I think you froze.
Yeah. She might have to go off camera.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So I am looking for additional services with Patriot Properties, who's our current software for assessments. As of right now, I'm doing the backend browser, setting prices per square foot for various properties in town and reviewing cap rates for the various commercial industrial buildings we have. One of the issues that I have is I have, a relative good amount of knowledge for the income approach and for valuations, but by no means am I an expert. And since the 7 years since I've been here, when I've started, we have just been growing in leaps and bounds. At this point, we have Potpourri, we have Pepsi, we have Amazon. When I started, FIBA was empty, and now their building is currently coming on board. We have marijuana cultivation centers, and I feel that the services that Patriot could provide us, being regional experts and having all the data at their fingertips, I think it's going to be so useful in setting some of these valuations and being fair and equitable and up to current, markets with their knowledge.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Kathy?
Yeah, Kathy, Alan McRae. I've noticed that You talked about expenses for evaluating businesses supply gas and oil. Is that a state mandate now?
So that is a state mandate. That is a state mandate. There's some equation that has to be done, and there's only a few assessors that have been trained on it. So you have to utilize Patriot or RSC, which is our personal property provider. They're both providing that service, and we've decided to go with Patriot.
Okay. Do we have
Okay.
very many of those?
So we have
Businesses?
two.
Two, only two.
So we have two of them, and it's 2,000 an account for that service. But that's not the service that I'm requesting for right now. That was an additional service that we already had put into my budget last year, because last year was the first year that they were asking for those, like I said, for that whole analysis for the two. It was New England Power Company and Mass Energy. It's more how energy is valuated. And that was last year. This service is more for, like I said, it's commercial, industrial. It's setting valuations and cap rates. Part of the service that they'll provide is going into the tables and doing table maintenance. They have at their fingertips, they can look at all the various dentists, convenience stores, warehouses, and they have this data at their fingertips. The issue that I have right now is I send out our income and expense forms, and I'm trying to get a value for price per square foot of, like I said, these various office buildings, warehouses, Dunkin' Donuts, you name it. But I only have so many in town that I could utilize that data for. But when you have somebody like Patriot who services Westford and Boxborough and different communities, they have regional data to set these valuations. So you're closer to the mark. So they'll be going into the back-end browser, setting these tables that help us assist in getting valuations for these businesses. And they'll be going out to some of these properties. So part of the contract within that 5,700 is for them to go out to a tenth of the properties that we have each year. So the state says you have to visit 100% of your properties every 10 years, which means a tenth has to be done every year. So part of the contract would be them going out, picking up some of the new growth at these buildings, setting the valuations for them. So that's huge for them to go, because they're the experts, and it's really beneficial when you think of how far we've come up. You know, I wanted to see what we were at 2015, and you know, one of the things, our assessments are up 62% from 2015 when I started for commercial. Some of these businesses existed, but they were empty, and now that they're coming on board, you really need to have like experience and specialty in these kind of evaluations. I'm not a marijuana cultivation expert. You know what I mean? I don't know what other ones in other towns are being valued at. And right now, one of the issues I have that's very time consuming is you call some of these other towns for information. So I might call various towns saying, can you help me? I'm looking for price per square feet of this type of building. And it's really time consuming where they have regional data right at their fingertips.
All right, thank you.
Great. Any other questions for Kathy?
Madam Chair, I'm gonna jump in again. Just another example of a department head that has always done more with less. And Kathy, just appreciate all that you do, and thank you for plugging along and
Thank you.
sticking with us.
Thanks.
You bet.
Great. There's no more questions. I think we're all set. Thank you very much, Kathy. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Next on the agenda, we have our HR department, and I see Bridget has just joined us. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just a couple of things to go over with everyone. From a personnel request standpoint, I do have the increase in hours, which we talked about last week. So thank you all for hearing that request last week and approving it. Just to go over that quickly, that was the increase in hours for the HR admin assistant of up to 40 hours per week. And that was a budget impact of about $15,740 based on it going up to the full 40 hours. That position was already benefits eligible, so we won't have an impact on that side. It really is just a request as the HR department is growing and evolving to have that person be able to help out and have the flexibility, to increase tasks to better utilize Munis, as I mentioned, create additional availabilities to the schools to help for onboarding and benefits related tasks, and also auditing and reconciling from a financial perspective for the department. So I appreciate everybody listening to that last week and approving it. So that will be a huge help to myself and the department. From an expense request standpoint, we are looking at putting in the educational professional development line item back into the HR budget. That was in there previously and was taken out this last fiscal year. I believe, and Cheryl and Anthony could probably speak up to why it was taken out. I imagine it had to do with COVID, the impact that it had on the budget. But this was a $20,000 line item. We're looking to bring it back into the budget. It's important to include it. This is where we housed, training and development of our staff, supervisory and leadership courses. This could be with, the MMA, Suffolk programs, MCPPO, MCTA, lots of acronyms, MAAO. This is really where we can take a look at our staff and, see who's ready for some more development, more education, and, review that with department heads and nominate folks and have, them take these classes and, help them either, be prepared for the next step with us in their career, or just, keeping up with changing laws and whatnot. But a really important piece of our budget that I'm hopeful and excited to bring back in if it's something that's approved.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Bridget?
Yeah, the only one I had, but I think you answered just so the training budget's for all departments, right? For professional development across the town, not just HR. Awesome.
Oh, of course, yes.
Okay, cool. No, my wife's in HR, so I have to be careful, but I just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
No, everyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you. There's no more questions. I think we're all set. Thank you very much, Bridget, for your time.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And next on the agenda, we have the building, ZBA, the building department. See, we have Mr. Mullen on the call.
Hello.
Good evening.
Well, I have a few different line items under the budget, but starting off with the building department first. We've been doing a lot of talk with planning and conservation and the Board of Health about reorganization. We're still in the early stages of that. So we're presenting the budget basically as is, like it was last year, with incremental increases. The difference being that the assistant zoning officer, permit coordinator, business manager is no longer in the position. We have posted and made an offer, and he's accepted the offer for a local inspector. That salary actually decreases slightly by about $3,400. It'll be a grade 10, step 3 position at $69,300. So we can eliminate the $72,766.80 position. Show a little bit of savings there. No capital requests. I know that when I was first here and met with Cheryl early on, and through the year, we discussed my revolving fund, which didn't seem to be properly funded, or we weren't putting funds into it properly, but Cheryl can speak to that. So.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. So one of the recommendations through this budget process is to, instead of having a building department revolving fund, have those receipts be general fund receipts and get rid of the transfer that we used to do from building revolving to the building department. So it was it's one of those kind of cleanup things. Again, kind of at the recommendation of the auditors as well, that we clean up.
She's happy to see everybody too. Sorry, Cheryl.
Sorry.
That we try to eliminate a lot of the transferring back and forth between different funds and different, operating budgets, as well as that we have a lot of revolving funds. And so rather than continue with the old practice, my recommendation, speaking with Ed and looking at this, was have all the money go to general fund, get rid of the revolving fund, and just have the budget be the budget and not be transferring money back and forth.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Welcome.
So with the transfer or the elimination of the revolving fund, the increase for 5,000 on mileage is the reimbursement for the plumbing, electrical, and potentially the local inspector. Listening to the chief, I was hoping to put in a request for the turnover of his vehicle, but when he was telling me it's 100,000 miles, maybe not. We'll see. I'll work it out with him, but we may need another vehicle for this department. Right now, we're running a Ford Escape that would be for the new local inspector. And outside of that, it's status quo, more or less.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Mullen?
Not from Mr. Mullen, but I want to say that we are happy to see Nancy as well, especially since she's not requesting anything from us.
I'll let her know, Chuck.
Okay, so on to, we're all set with building, CBA.
Yeah, so again, status quo currently, no additional expense. The administrative assistant for building, Board of Health and ZBA are still in place.
Okay,
Thanks, Ed.
all right, great. Any other questions for Mr. Mullen?
Thank you, Ed.
All right, well, I think we're all set, Ed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night. So next on the call, we're scheduled to be with the Conservation Department.
She's on her way.
Ah, she is.
Did I just hear you say mine conservation?
Oh,
Or is that a coincidence?
oh no. Good evening. How are you, Amy?
Hi.
Perfect timing.
Right, okay.
Yeah, perfect timing. Exactly. So we're ready whenever you're ready to begin.
Okay, so the basic budget hasn't really changed. Some things have moved around, but there's no real increase in the day-to-day management budget, if you will. The only reason I'm here tonight is just to keep alive, I think, basically the request for an assistant conservation agent to help get everything done that needs to be done and which I think the town should have done. So I don't know what you may or may not want to hear, or I haven't pulled anything together just yet.
Some examples of the things that aren't getting done that need to get done.
In no particular order, I left my files downstairs. Reviewing building permits, I can keep up, but I'm not putting a lot of attention into it. So some things do slide occasionally that should have been caught. I should clearly be doing more construction monitoring. I was out this weekend because I got called out in the rainstorm on a couple sites that were having issues that I hadn't been able to see in a while and keep on top of. There's some open space encroachments that I know about and have just been kind of riding. None of them are really egregious. There is one that's a driveway, but it's been there a long time. It's not new. But I haven't really been able to chase the people that are doing that. Trying to get some survey done so I know exactly where the property lines are. I kind of had two buckets of work that I do. You know, the one side is the regulatory side, and then the other side is the open space side. And regulatory obviously needs specific attention and timelines and all that. So open space is what takes the hit when I can't do something. So there's clearly a lot more that could be done for open space for the town, both in terms of management or outreach or any kind of education up to trails or anything along those lines. And certainly chasing grants, especially at this point, I'm thinking the smaller grants, not the really big grants, so we can get things done like boardwalks or something to make trails passable and usable for people. And those are all sort of the, I don't know, professional technical side, if you will. And certainly, as I didn't hear what Ed had to say, but certainly on the more administrative side, filing, cleaning, the deep cleaning of the files, which I've been putting off for 5 years, but that could probably be more of an administrative type hire. And just being able to provide the Conservation Commission with a deeper review of especially the larger permits requests that come in, and helping the public with their own things. So, all of that, I am doing all of that, but for almost all of it, there's no question it could be a deeper and more productive benefit to the town and to the applicants.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions for Amy?
Yes, I have a question. With the new part-time conservation agent, the budget says the increased cost is 29,000, but you said it was a wash, or are you going to back off on your hours? And
No, it would not be a wash. What I meant was a wash was the office budget, supplies, those sorts of things. That hasn't changed. This new hire would not be a wash. It would be an increase. I could step my hours back a bit, which is certainly fine with me. But it's an increase overall. And I will also say that, let's see, the previous, or the one before me, conservation person was more just administrative, and she was part-time. And then when she left, a full-time professional technical agent got hired, but didn't last long. And then when I was hired, it went back to part-time. And let's see, for the 2020 spring town meeting, the commission, we had asked for this agent position, which did get approved at that point. And obviously everything went by the board with the COVID. So the commission, and I know things are just tough this year, but the commission just wants to make sure that the request is kept live, if you will, for when things might open up a little bit more.
Yeah, I understand. By no means do I mean for you to cut back your hours. I was just questioning whether that was the case or not. It sounds like you have enough work for both of you, so thank you for your answer.
Oh, yes.
All right, great.
I would say, given the pace of development here and the fact that I doubt any of us think it's going to slow down, we really need a thorough review. It's important to make sure that we take care of our land. So I want to make sure that this, I'm in full support of this, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Any other questions or comments for Amy?
Thanks, Amy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Good night.
Good night.
All right.
So next on the agenda is EHS. I see that we have Ashley Shaheen on the call.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to share the work of our department. And am I able to share my screen with folks?
Certainly.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Oops. wanted to start off by saying thank you to the community and how proud I feel to be part of the department and the community as a whole, as we have really risen to the occasion to best serve residents throughout these trying times. And a special thanks to residents, loved ones, and folks that have expressed concern on behalf of their senior neighbors and elders by contacting our department and reaching out to us so we can take the necessary steps to reach out and check in on everyone during these times. So I just wanted to share a few testimonials from folks commenting on the services that we have provided. While it was necessary for the town building closures and program cancellations, the department continued to meet the need by providing services to the community by transitioning to a remote service model to combat the public health concern of social isolation and serving as an access point to important services and supports, and doing so to fulfill our mission. Our department continued to work with new and existing individuals, and now, as you can see from the bar graph, our numbers keep increasing year after year. As our mission statement states, we provide service not only to seniors, but all residents regardless of age. And in FY20, we provided services to 1,168 individuals of all ages. And how we continue to provide service throughout the pandemic is through the following waves, but not exclusive of what we do, including housing assistance, caregiver support groups, addiction support, fuel assistance, virtual programming on LCTV, transportation services, volunteer opportunities, outreach advocacy, education, veterinary care assistance, food insecurity, and the Meals on Wheels program. I just wanted to highlight a few figures in the next slide. So for transportation, pre-pandemic, there were 2,800 transports with an average of 400 rides per month. In FY20, 2,971 transports with an average of 248 rides per month, which is a vital service. Due to the pandemic, transportation was altered, but it had resumed in limited service of August of 2020 for essential trips only. Nutrition, support for the meals site and Meals on Wheels is essential for promoting well-being, and there was a 12% increase in home delivered meals program from FY19 to FY20 as family and friends were concerned about their loved ones. Outreach services continue to steadily increase, and COVID had shed light on the topic of social isolation and loneliness that many have experienced throughout the age spectrum. Outreach continues to provide social and emotional assistance, also helping residents with heating subsidies, food stamps, housing, caregiver support, financial assistance. And in FY20, there were 5,166 points of contact with 746 individuals served. Programming, which continued until March of 2020, and then once the pandemic hit, we shifted to virtual program offerings And those sign-ins include the virtual programs as well, which is 14,295. So the plan is to continue to slowly, steadily, and safely welcome back indoor programming while continuing to develop virtual and cable programs for folks to access. The plan is to use formula grant money in FY22 to fund a part-time activity volunteer assistant, and if the position is justified, see if it can turn into the operating budget for FY23. And then just a few photographs of residents participating in some of the programs that we had. We had an on-site photography class. We have some grab and go programs pictured here, as well as our transportation services and arts and crafts program. The Friends have also held some grab and go events at El Forno's. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Any questions for Ashley?
Ashley, small thing. I was looking at the budget. Why did your salary go down and everybody else's went up?
Oh,
Madam Chair, I can answer that. That's okay with you.
Sure.
Ashley was brought in at a different step than the previous director was at.
So she didn't receive a step increase this year.
She was just hired, and so Liz was at a different step.
Gotcha.
Than Ashley.
Okay.
I could bump myself up.
I just want to let you know I read your budget.
That's good. I was expecting some questions.
Good
Any other
job.
questions?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ashley?
Just to thank you for doing a lot of hard work in a very difficult time. I don't envy you, and you've been doing it with grace and good humor, and you're always a ray of sunshine on these Zoom calls, I'll tell you that.
I feel like I needed to come and talk about the work because every time I'm on for the select board, I'm accepting donations, and I promise you we are doing more than that. But it really is a community effort. Ever since the pandemic hit, it has been an outpouring of community support. Everyone wants to assist and volunteer, which is really a beautiful thing to see, and more importantly, to be a part of. I just think Littleton is very special in that way, that residents want to be involved and they're active and engaged, which makes the work that much more meaningful. So thank you. And, this is also a good opportunity just to let folks know that we are here, we continue to be here, and if folks need assistance in any way, just feel free to reach out to our department, and if we don't know the answer, we can certainly connect you with a resource to get the answers that you need.
Ashley, please extend the thank yous and the appreciation to your whole department.
Thank you.
You're the face of the department. We very much appreciate all that you do, but we appreciate all that all of you do, and to your point, and all those that have reached out and given donations and have volunteered and stepped forward and helped out with the meal.
We're very lucky. We have a very strong staff, and too, like everyone within Town Hall has been incredibly helpful as well. So
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much, Ashley.
Great job.
all right, thank
Great job,
you. Sorry,
thank
I was
you.
a little frazzled because they moved me up on the time frame.
Oh, no worries. It didn't
I wasn't
show.
really ready. Hopefully everything was spell checked, but all right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good night. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the town administrator, Mr. Ansaldi.
Who put me after Ashley? It's just not fair.
Let's just say no.
You're a ray of sunshine too, Anthony.
Oh, thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Jeez.
Right.
Cheryl, we're going to have to talk about that. Sorry, I have no PowerPoints. I just had my wife. She popped her head in. That was it.
Maybe Judy's dog can bark a couple times for you.
There you go. First of all,
Everybody.
it's great to be back. For those of you I don't get to see, really thrilled to be back. It's exciting. I think it's exciting times that's facing the community, and I'm just thrilled to be partnering with the select board and Fincom and making Littleton an even more special place than I think that we already know that it is. With that, there's only two additions to the budget. Other than that, it's a pretty status quo budget. One was it all has to center around the executive assistant. What we'd like to see, Joe and I, is that we add the part-time position in our office really for at least the next fiscal year. And the reason being is because it would allow Diane Dickerson to onboard the next executive assistant. There's a lot to that job, and Diane stopped in the office today, and we were reminiscing when she came aboard, and I was relatively new too, that there was nobody to do that onboarding. So everything was really learning from scratch, and Keith didn't get involved to the day-to-day, so he was, it wasn't, he was little help in that area, but so we really had to learn at that point, and Diane's done a great job. She's been phenomenal, and we want to be able to have her teach that next person to be just as effective. So Diane would stay on and really work on an average, say 20 hours. She'd continue on and do the annual report. She would stay on and do the licenses. She would stay on and do help with other select board administrative duties. And she would really be onboarding that new person. And speaking of that new person, Joe and I would like to see that person be a little bit more on the like a management analyst type and really take over things like our social media presence. Right now, I know that Joe tries to do it, and when I was in Joe's position, I tried to do it, and Nancy fills in, and I might fill in, but there's so much more to keep our residents informed about. And if we can have that dedicated person, so Joe can be concentrating on economic development and the other projects that we have going on in town, and I can keep track of the overall operations of the town administrator's office. So we're looking to possibly elevate that position by $8,151, and we just threw an estimate in for the part-time up to 19 hours or 20 hours on average for a part-time administrative assistant. And if we didn't have something for that person, if there's some chance that Diane had downtime, she would also be a floater at town hall and pick up where she's needed, especially during budget time. Cheryl could certainly use it to put some of these books together and so forth. So Diane's been a tremendous resource, and I would just hate to see her walk away and retire yet again and lose that knowledge that she has.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions for Mr. Ansaldi?
Anthony, I noticed one line item that building administrative supervisor, hourly wages going from 5K to 45K. Am I reading that right?
Cheryl, did you see that? I'm not.
Alan, are you talking about under the TA's budget or public buildings?
No, it's under the TA's budget. There's the building maintenance supervisor, and right under that is building admin, what I take to be supervisor, but maybe it's SUPP, so.
Yeah, sure. So it's in the public buildings one, so it's on the second page on 167.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm looking for that, Alan.
I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I just want to look at it real quick.
Was that page 157, Tyler?
167, yeah.
I think that was the stipend for the chair of Fincom.
Oh, that, okay.
Oh.
Never mind.
So I can answer that. So
Thanks,
that's,
Joe.
yeah, which I thought that what this was. So when we talked about the building department reorg, we talked about, not quite knowing how much that was going to cost. And we had a estimate of about $50,000 for now that we want to put into the budget. That is what that increase is. So in FY22, we have 50,000 under the building admin support. And that's the plug for the building department reorg, not really knowing where the dollars are going to end up or at all, and that's what that increase is for that reorganization.
Okay, so it's support, not supervisor, right?
Correct. Yes. And where
Okay,
and whether it stays in public buildings, I don't know until, once Ed is able to kind of work through the reorg. More than likely will kind of end up in different places, but we needed to kind of put it somewhere, and that's where we put the money.
Okay. It just was a strange place and a strange amount, so I wanted to see how good Anthony was. He's got there.
That's why we have Cheryl. It's like autopilot when you have Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank
I have
you.
a question
Are there
back-
any other questions for Mr. Ansaldi?
Yeah, I just have one on the part-time person for the executive assistant. You talking about 20 hours or 19?
So Betsy, that would be up to, there'll be times when, like during the annual report, that she might be working 30. And then there might be weeks when, like after town meeting in the summer, it goes down to 0. So on an average, we envision it being up to 20. Not
Is it
not
benefits
benefit,
eligible
no,
position? I guess that's the real question, right? Are we talking benefits or not?
no. She doesn't take up benefits now.
And how are we balanced? So this is the ask now, right? Which is where we are. So we still have to balance this with the other people asking for additional people and figure out where this is going to come, or?
So this is within the operating budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, I'll just add to it. So this is right now, our operating budget is imbalanced. So any of the items that, other than capital, you're hearing actually fit. That doesn't mean you have to approve them. That would just mean that it would be more excess funds available at the end of the year.
Okay, so this is I'm not questioning it at all. I'm just trying to understand the process here. So somebody came to the decision that this is in and other ones are out, and I'm just trying to understand how that happened.
So the what was told to the department heads was that to bring back a level funded budget, not level services, but I'm sorry, level funded budget. So everybody for the most part did that, but there was exceptions that various departments wanted to be assessed. You heard Kathy earlier talk about Patriot, and that's something that we had talked through. So there is a few departments. You heard Bridget talk about the HR position and what we want to do. And this was just another one of those positions that was identified. And I'll, it was identified after I got here, which was the budget already went out. And same with the professional development. That was something that I really feel strongly that we needed to bring back. We have so many new employees that their training is going to start back up. And for an example, the MMA Suffolk University Financial Certificate Program. So we're actually want to send 2 people to that. And I think it's at a cost of $800 a course. And the select board allowed that expense to go forward with this year. And that's for 2 people. And they're 2 new people. Anna, who is the assistant treasurer, who didn't have really municipal experience. She was a private sector experience. And then our assistant town administrator, Joe Layden, who was phenomenal in the planning area and would like to know more about the finance and be a be stronger in that area. So the select board did support that. And those are areas where, even though it was level funded budgets, that those are areas that, I believe that we need to address for the benefit of the town moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ansaldi? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have the fire department capital request. I see we have Chief Wodzinski and Deputy Chief Clancy on the call.
How come these guys get titles and everybody else's first name?
I know. I don't know, Betsy. I'm all over the place.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This budget format, this is great. We're just flying through this. This is definitely better than Saturday.
Hey,
right?
Woody.
Worth giving up that free lunch, right?
All right, so capital, as far as capital for the fire department, there are three asks in there. One of them of which is our major repair account. It was in capital a couple of years ago, or it has been for several years. And then last year it was moved into the operating budget. And what we've kind of determined through the repair of our vehicles and having that ability to per se roll money forward if it's not used, it didn't really work out for us with the funds in the operating budget. So we've requested to put them back into the capital. That's the 25,000 for major repair. And the reason being, we could have a very say a year where things don't break as much. And not spend so much money. And then followed by a year where we would potentially go over and use that. And this year, for example, is where we are already. We're halfway through the year and we've spent $27,000 in vehicle repairs. We've had some pretty substantial repairs on apparatus and the ambulances. And so I guess basically, if we can have that money roll over as capital, we'd have it to use when we run into situations like this without having to come back to the boards asking for like a reserve fund transfer or something like that. So we really want to try to avoid that. So this just gives us a little bit more flexibility. On the two vehicles that we're looking to replace, one of them is our car 11, which is our utility pickup truck. This has been on the capital improvement list now for a couple of years that we've pushed down. It's a 2010 Chevy S10, 2010 Chevy pickup truck. It's basically emergency response vehicle. It tows our trailers, the hazardous materials trailers out onto the highway. We run a plow on it. It responds in the winter in snowstorms in front of the ambulance, kind of clearing the way to medicals during storms, and also maintains the lot here. This year, we've definitely soaked some money into that as we've had some mechanical issues. We've had brake failure. The panels are rusting out. It failed inspection. They're doing some work to it now to kind of bring that back up. But it's definitely it's a pretty beat vehicle, and that's what we would replace it with is an 1-ton Ford F-350 pickup truck. The new trucks are all aluminum. We'd also put a flatbed aluminum body on that with some utility boxes on each side. The other thing that we would look at this vehicle for is maybe a few years down the road, this truck could also be a backup as a brush truck. We could buy a very small skid unit for short money to put in the back of it, just as another fleet brush truck in a few years. It has the potential for that. But that's the number one priority on our vehicles. And then the other one is it's a 2008 Toyota Tundra. On the outside, it looks good, but this vehicle also, we've soaked some money into that in some mechanical repairs over the last year. What we'd be looking to do, we could either, trade that in or maybe repurpose it to another department for a couple of years. But we'd replace that with a Chevy Tahoe. It's a decent sized vehicle, be a command vehicle, and still has four-wheel drive, so we can still get around in storms, construction sites for inspections, things like that. So those are our three major risks for capital.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Wodzinski?
Chief, how many miles on the Toyota?
Deputy
65,000.
165?
No, 65.
Oh, 65. Thank you.
Guys are tough on vehicles, I'll tell you. But it is nice to not get requests in the millions from Scott like we usually do. Oh, I mean, Chief Wodzinski, sorry.
Hey, last year was a quiet year also, so try to spread that out.
He's doing a good job.
Excellent. Any other questions for Scott? Nope. All right, good. I think we're all set. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You guys.
Good night, thank you.
Next, we're on to the school department capital request.
Justin, is there anyone joining you?
We just got the message that you guys were running early, I think. So I believe Mike Fontanella is probably going to try to hop on, possibly Kelly and maybe Steve Mark. I don't know if we can give it another minute or two.
No, let's try to do it with just you, Justin.
All in favor? I can get started. I just don't have the experience that those other guys do.
Chairwoman Napoli, Alicia Day is also available.
I see that. So maybe we'll take Alicia since she's on the call, and then we'll come back to the school department.
It's fine by me. I can hang tight.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You got it.
Alicia, are you there?
I am. I'm trying to figure out if Fred was coming on or not. Hello.
Hello.
Madam Chair and Alicia, I did see Fred earlier at the meeting. He did sign off. Again, because we're running early, I don't know if Alicia, you're able to text him to come back on. We also do have the next person, Thomas Bailey with Cemetery, if we needed to give Park and Rec and school a little extra time to get everyone signed on.
I did text Fred. I just haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay.
If TC is ready, you want to just jump there?
Yeah, let's do that. So we'll take TC and we'll come back to school and Park and Rec. TC?
Can you hear me?
We can. How are you?
Good. How is everybody?
Good.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
So our capital is, we're a little behind where we wanted to be. We didn't get all the bids in yet. We do have a placeholder that we put forth, but, again, until we get the contractors to give us the bids, we don't have any hard numbers yet.
Okay.
We don't have what we're trying to do next for our capital is to develop another acre that we can use as burial lots. We don't have a code red situation with the existing burial lots. We have 236 available for sale. And in 2020, we only did 32 full burials. So we could certainly get through another year, but we want to get the ball rolling on that next acre as soon as possible.
When do you think you'll have those bids in, Tom?
I got one, and one I know is, one company I know is working it up. And the third company, they must just be so busy they haven't even got back to me.
Okay.
How about your overtime? It looks like your overtime line doubled.
Well, what was happening, what was ongoing practice that I inherited here was that for funerals on Saturdays when they come up, they were just paying it out of the revolving fund, which we found out that we can't do that anymore. So it had to come from salaries or the overtime fund rather, and that sort of chewed it right up.
So it's Cheryl's fault, right?
Well, or we could say Cheryl saved us from doing it an incorrect way, which was ongoing practice.
Good. Thank you, Tom.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Regarding the expansion, like how long will that work actually take to complete once you get approved?
Well, that I don't expect it to take more than 4 months.
Okay.
DC, where was the expansion?
It's off of an existing road here, Sullivan Way. It's basically the far perimeter road. It's next to section 11, which is where you are, Joe, right up the hill from you.
Behind Witchwood?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And how many plots would another acre provide, roughly?
Without having done any serious engineering, a similar size section that we have has 260 in it, so it would certainly gain us another 250, another 260.
Thank you.
And that would buy us another 5, 7, 8 years before we'd have to. So we could start a gradual fund to then do the next phase, which would be some of the Hartwell land that was donated.
Great. Any other questions?
You seen an impact from COVID? I'll ask kind of the tough question here, right?
We actually had fewer burials this year than the previous 2 years. But what I think is happening is that a lot of people are choosing cremation. And because cremation gives you such flexibility on when you do your funeral service, they're waiting and until they can do it with the full family, or until, they might just have those cremation urns on the shelf somewhere while they wait for better times. But that's just me speculating. I don't know exactly. Maybe Littleton residents just flew under the radar on the COVID. That's possible too.
We're a tough lot.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, TC. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. So now we'll circle back to the schools. Do we have everybody on the call, or should we go to Park and Rec?
All right, I'm back.
On the move.
This is a little hectic here. As long as I think Steve Mark's on the call as well. Do we see him in attendance?
Steve, yep.
If we can just bring him in as well, if he's not already on there.
He's on.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh.
We can.
Okay, I'm here.
Perfect. So, Steve, you want to start? I mean, you can lead the charge here, but essentially we've prepared a set of requests, and we can take them one at a time or talk to the left side and the right side. Steve, how has this typically been done in the past?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the process is and what information you're looking for. So I did prepare. Hopefully you have it. We had a list of school projects, which was a little over $300,000 request, and then we had some items that we had requested through the PMBC as well for some facility studies. I can go through those one by one. I can answer specific questions on specific projects. You tell me what you'd like me to do.
I think it would be helpful to go through them one by one.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm assuming it's in the same order that I have. So the phone systems, this is a phone system at Russell Street, as well as central office. As you know, they're both Russell Street and the central office are on the same phone system that the town hall uses. Nancy Glencross and the town is looking to move away from that current system and go to, I think, a web-based system for the town. That web-based system phones doesn't really work for the school side because of the number of classroom phones that we have at $15 a phone. It basically quadruples our monthly telephone charges. So this is a one-time capital infusion to replace the phone system. This would be the same phone system that we have at the Shaker Lane School and the high school. And so that it would tie into, they would all start to tie in together so we can do direct dialing from school to school and things like that. So that's what that phone system upgrade is. It's to replace the current phone systems that are there.
Steve.
Questions on that, or is that enough information, or?
Madam Chair, can I jump in and just ask Steve a quick question?
Sure.
Cindy, you good?
Yep.
Thanks. So Steve, the system that's in the high school and at Shaker, so if we change out at central office and at Russell, can we expect that we're going to get the same request out of the middle school? And is the system that Russell and the high school, or I'm sorry, Shaker and the high school using now is a little long on the tooth? So are we moving on to something that's got some longevity to it, or?
Definitely has longevity to it. The middle school is a standalone. I think it's a Signet system, but it's a standalone system. So there's not an immediate need to replace the middle school phone system. I mean, in a couple of years, we'll probably need to, but there's not an immediate need. The immediate need with Russell Street and central office because the town is looking to move away from the current system that they're on now, and Russell Street and the school offices are tied into that system. And so we would separate from the town and tie all those systems in with the Shaker Lane and the high school.
Okay, there's no way for the schools to kind of take over the server, if you will, from what Nancy's using now, just to maintain, not have to replace all the phones in every classroom and all that kind of stuff. I know this came up last year as well, and
yeah, I'd have to talk with Nancy and see if there's a way to just maintain that system separately.
Right.
Our own. I know one of the issues that Nancy Glencross has had with the town is the voicemail went down a couple of months ago, and they couldn't find replacement parts for that voicemail server, and so
asked and answered, Steve. Asked and answered.
We would have to do something different on that. So yeah. Any other questions on the phone systems?
No, thank you.
The maintenance van, again, this is a request we've had for a couple of years. The maintenance van that we have now is a 2006. We bought it used. It's definitely starting to show wear and tear, and it's starting to rust out along the rocker panels. I mean, it gets used daily by Bill, our maintenance person, and he drives around from school to school to school, fixing problems. And the van is loaded with plumbing gear and construction tools and all that kind of stuff. So it gets used on a daily basis. One of the problems we have on the school department is we don't have inside storage. So the van is stored on the outside year round, and we try to maintain it and take care of it, but time catches up to it. So it's a Chevy Dodge. I think it's a Dodge. I don't remember what the current van is. It might be an F-250.
White.
But it's got over 115,000 miles on it at this point in time. Again, it's starting to show wear and tear. And the last time we had it inspected, they warned us that there are some holes developing under the driver's seat, under the rocker panels, and we need to keep an eye on it, as that could cause some leakage into the cab of exhaust fumes and stuff like that. So it hasn't happened yet. I mean, we can get another year out of it if we need to, but we really need to replace that at some point in time. Any questions on that? You guys have probably all seen the van driving around town, so. Oh, I do have the phone replacement on here. I put it on there as a placeholder. Certainly doesn't need to be done right away. And again, I'll go back to the conversation I had. We can wait a couple of years on that. There's nothing wrong with the fifth system. We would just eventually like to tie in all of the schools so they're all on the same system, all using the same extension parameters, and we can direct dial from one school to another, and a teacher at one school can direct dial a classroom in another school. So it is on the list. It is number 4, but we could certainly postpone that and do that some other time. That's not that critical at this point in time. Middle school card access system. Again, that system is working. We're trying to standardize all of the card access systems that we have from school to school. All of the schools are now on the same card access system, with the exception of the middle school. The middle school is original to the construction that was 10 years ago, 14 years ago at this point in time. And so whenever we want to add somebody into that system, we have to go over and manually log into that system and change the parameters or add a new user. All of the other schools are all tied in to the same system, and we can do all that remotely. And so that's what that is about. Again, the system is working now at this point in time. It's just, I won't say just a convenience thing, but it certainly would tie in all the schools using the same system, so we're consistent platform across the district on the card access systems. Any questions on that, or?
Steve, do you want to, this might be just a good time to remind folks that we prioritize these requests, and as we go down the list, they become more of the placeholder ideas for possibly for future years to come. So, well, it would be nice to have all of these things magically granted for us. We're not anticipating that to take place. And I think that we want to reiterate that line items 1 and 2, we feel like we're in a situation where we're going to be without an economical phone system because the town's making a change, and it's impacting our phone system. So we're looking for assistance there. And then the van itself is probably becoming a potential safety issue for the employee involved. And at some point, we're more likely going to lose that van and have an emergency capital expense. I'm sure there were many conversations tonight about the state of affairs and what's appropriate to request. So we can continue to go through the list, because I think that you're going to see these same requests next year and the year after. And the list will probably get, if the list will grow over time. So I just wanted to jump in to say, I know you were running an hour ahead. Do you want us to catch you back up by going through all of this? Or do you want to try to stay on ahead of schedule? Because I think we also want to spend some time talking about the right side of the list here with some long-term capital projects. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we can go back and revisit the phone system at the middle school and reprioritize that. I'm not going to die on the hill for that. It's certainly something that we can postpone a year or two. At this point in time, there are other, there are some other things that we'd like to do and that would take priority, especially some of the ones on the right side of the page with the PMBC, the high school auxiliary gym and the weight room floor is really starting to deteriorate. That needs to be addressed. So again, it's the committee's choice. Do you want me to work down through the rest of the list, or do you want me to jump over to the PMBC side and discuss some of those projects?
Rather see some of the PMBC projects, Steve.
Okay.
Steve, if I could, so just one thing, I think, whether it's on this call or afterwards, we probably should just double check your list of priorities, because like in what we got for draft, the middle school phone replacement was the top thing on the list. So I think we just want to make sure we have, as we're looking at it, going forward, we make sure they're all in the right order.
Yeah, no, the middle school phone replacement would not be the priority. That would be Russell Street and central office phone. So I'm certainly glad to go over and sit with anybody outside this meeting and look at that priority list, Tyler.
Yeah, I think the priorities on all these are going to be critical. We have $1 million basic overage on capital requests, so we're going to have to make $1 million in capital cuts here. So
yep, we understand that.
Yeah.
Yep. So on the PMBC side of the list, again, we had number one, and again, I'm not sure what the correct dollar amount is. I've since had a conversation with Rich Crowley a couple of days ago, and we discussed that figure. As the Board of Selectmen knows, we did submit a statement of interest to MSBA, the state school building authority. We've had a couple of follow-up conversations with MSBA. That while we don't have word from MSBA yet, it appears that there may be some interest from MSBA to work with the town of Littleton on the Shaker Lane School. So we will at some point in time need to do some kind of an initial feasibility study, an initial review by architects and contractors to determine the feasibility of either renovating the current Shaker Lane School or replacing that building. So that's what that money is for. Rich Crowley threw out a number that a complete feasibility study is in the $400,000 neighborhood. So again, that's from Rich Crowley. This was a number that we had put on to do some kind of an initial assessment on the conditions of the building, and then come up with some preliminary, I guess, plans and ideas and designs that we could then present to MSBA and the town and decide which way to move forward on that. So that's what that money is. I guess the big elephant here is the administrative wing at the high school. We did replace a section with PMBC help and town funds a couple of years ago. That was on the north side of that administrative wing. That's not where the leaks are at this point in time. The leaks have migrated around the corner, so it's over the office area.
You're talking the roof, Steve.
And I've described this to school committee. It's like playing whack-a-mole with the leaks. So we fix a leak or two in one spot, and another one pops up. We've had the roofers, our roofing contractors out honestly about every 2 weeks for the year. While there's no snow on it, but they fix one leak and then another one pops up a couple of weeks later. Right now we're chasing a leak that we can't find where it is, and they're coming back in the next day or two to try to chase that down. But really the recommendation is we need to replace the entire roof. It may be the time to pull up the existing roof, check the insulation, replace it with additional information so that is a building envelope issue, and then put a new roof down. We had our contractor just give us a ballpark price, and that's what that $800,000 is. That would include, I think, some architectural work and study as well. Obviously, that would have to go out to bid, but that's kind of the priority on the building side at this point in time. I mean, we continue to fix the leaks when we can find them, but it is becoming problematic as we move forward here. Any questions on the high school roof? High school auxiliary gym floor, that's at $35,000. That would be to pull up both the auxiliary gym floor and the weight room floors. Both the auxiliary gym has a poured, I think it's a poured rubber floor that is really starting to show signs of deterioration. We don't think there's moisture under it, but as we pull it up, that would tell that. issue. The floor is starting to buckle and bubble in some places, and it's time to replace that. The weight room floor is a rubber floor that's specifically designed for weight rooms. And again, those tiles are peeling up, and it becomes both a tripping hazard in some spot, but also just an issue where the tiles are pulling up and peeling up, and that floor needs to be replaced. So that $35,000 would do both of those areas. That's a quote we received from a contractor. They're a state approved contractor, so we can choose to go out to bid or just get the work done. But that's a pretty good quote on that. So the high school roof HVAC unit, this is it's RTAC number 1, which services the library, and then I think a couple of offices, but I don't remember what. There's some guidance offices over there. This is a unit that, and I've said it here many times, we do a good job maintaining all of our HVAC equipment. We have a contract with the company that comes in and services it. It's a replacement contract, so if something goes, they replace it. But they're starting to replace the same parts on this unit over and over again. And that's only gonna, if we continue, it's gonna drive up the cost of that contract. We've replaced the compressor on that unit. I've been in Littleton for 14 years, and I think this is the 4th compressor we put in it. And we've had electricians and contractors and everybody else in to try to figure out why we keep blowing compressors on that, and nobody can figure it out. And every time we do a compressor on that, we have to get a crane, because it's about a 400-pound compressor, and we have to get a crane up and over the parapets of the high school wall roof, because there's 8-foot walls are on the roof. So again, this is this would be the first probably of a cycle we need to start looking at and think about replacing rooftop units at various buildings. The high school at this point in time, other than Shaker Lane, the high school being the oldest, middle school is in good shape. Russell Street was done during that renovation. So the high school rooftop units, we need to start cycling through and starting to replace some of those units. So that's what that is. Alumni field lights, again, that's kind of a wish list. I mean, this is a wish list from the athletic department as well, when they installed the field. And Chuck, you were involved, so you're probably aware of the problem. They shifted the field down a couple of feet, I guess, from where it was originally. And so the existing lights that are there aren't quite able to light up the end zone, I guess, as much as it should. That's what I'm being told. So
yeah, there was about a 20-yard shift, Steve, and Mesco was able to come out and reposition and relamp all of the lights to make it acceptable, but it's not ideal.
Yeah, so you're aware that. So I that's all I kind of know. I mean, that would be an athletic director, Mike Lynn, question if you want to know specifics about what that is. But we did have Musco come out and look and give us a hard quote on what it would take to solve that situation. I guess they'd have to install a couple of new poles or something and rebalance the lights and put new lights up and things like that. So that's what that request is. And again, the rest are relatively minor on the priority list. The Russell Street School has some standing water. We've had a landscape contractor come in a couple of times and try to fix it. And I think we need a more permanent solution. So we probably need to pull up the pavers that are in that circle and fill it in again and compact it and probably hot top it. It does become standing water. It becomes ice in the wintertime in the cold weather. So the kids kind of go out and try to slide on it, and we try to keep them off of it, but it could become an issue. And then when it rains in the summer and stuff, it's a puddle that's about 4 inches deep that, the teachers try their hardest, but they just can't keep kids out of it. So that's what that is. But again, that's in the overall scope of things is relatively minor. School central office, we'd like to replace the carpet with either VCT tile or some kind of a hard surface. We had some people in the office that have some allergy issues. Excuse me, and the carpets just kind of don't help with those allergy issues.
If I could just jump in on that one, Steve, real quick. With all the space needs and everything we're doing right now, and the potential of with the library moving out of the building, that's probably something that I'd say is going to be there next year and until.
Yeah, no. Again, it was fine. When we did this, it was kind of a wish list. And,
yeah, absolutely.
We just trying to raise the issue more than anything else at this point in time. I mean, we do have the air purifiers that we purchased now, so that helps clean the air a little bit. We didn't have those when we put the list together, so those air purifiers sort of help clean that air and help with those allergy issues. So again, that's not that big of an issue. The high school parking lot, again, that's a DPW money, I believe, to finish that high school paving project. If it doesn't happen, in my opinion, it's not a big deal. The parking lot does have some minor issues, but overall, DPW and highway do a good job taking care of that parking lot for us. And then thank you to Cindy, I guess, and the state, where we hope to get, my understanding is we hope to get $50,000 through the state to help with the Russell Street doors. So that's on here just as a reminder. And then the total cost of that project is, I believe, $68,000, I believe, was the last number. And so there's already $20,000 that has been approved under PMBC to do those doors. But this would finish that project if we get the state money. If we don't get the state money, then we wait another year or two to do that. So that's all the requests that we have. And trust me, we understand times are tight and this is going to be prioritized in a different way. We're willing to work with that, obviously.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
Any other questions I can answer, or I'll be more than glad to meet separately with anybody. If you have separate questions, you can always call my office and I'll be more than glad to provide information. A lot of these are based on, at least on the left side of the page with the school projects, a lot of those are based on actual quotes that we've received. So those are pretty good numbers.
Great.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your work you're doing.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise,
All right.
guys. Thanks.
Need me for anything else? If not, I'll leave. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're back on schedule with Park and Rec.
There we go. Hello again.
Hello.
I do have a presentation, so I just needed to bring that up so I can share it with you. Let's see if it will let me do this. It always hides the little presentation button. There we go. All right. Everybody can see everything well enough?
Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted to start off. I know I haven't had an opportunity to really come into the Finance Committee as a whole or the Board of Selectmen as a whole, just to kind of give an update on the year to date in this current fiscal year. So I just wanted to go through that really quickly with you. It's something that myself, I've been very diligent about keeping track of the finances this year. I've been working with both Sean and Cheryl to make sure that we're staying on track where we need to be. So to date, where we're at, we're actually in the positive for 76,000. So, I think we're heading on a good trend. I think we'll, be pretty good the rest of this year. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If anybody has any questions or comments or concerns about that, just I guess you could ask now.
If I may, Chair. Alicia, I just wanted to say this is actually great work. I'm just trying to picture us a year ago. There was some major concerns and we're sitting here thinking, this is going to end in a disaster if we don't get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And you guys really got ahead of it. So this is actually fantastic to see that there's actually a revenue here. So good work for your whole team.
Thanks. We've been working hard.
It shows.
Thanks. All right. I don't want to keep you guys too much. I tried to keep things really simplified this evening. So I wanted to talk about staffing just for the simple fact that this is something that came up last year. Our administrative assistant was slated to go from 25 hours a week up to 40 hours a week. And rightly so, because of everything that happened with COVID, I guess, I don't want to really call it a promotion, but the increase of hours was declined by the TA's office at that time due to the deficit, which totally makes all the sense in the world. So the one thing I want to be very clear about the staffing is that all of these changes will only be implemented if they can be fully funded by our department program fees. We're not asking for extra money from the town. So none of these items that are on here for the staffing would be a request coming out of the general fund by any means. It would come out of our program fees. So I just wanted to clarify that. So we would go back to the administrative assistant being able to go from 25 hours a week to 40. And the main reason for that is during the school year, our office is actually open to the public 33 hours a week. And then in the summer season, the office is open 40 hours a week. So for us that are in the office, especially in the summertime, Tim is at the beach the majority of the time. We have our program coordinators that are out with their programs, and I'm in and out, with meetings and things as well. So we really do need to have coverage in the office. There's times where, we might not have somebody that's able to be there in the office in the later evening. So if I have a meeting, I have to really try to make my schedule work to have everything done in the morning while the administrative assistant is there. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why we would need to increase those hours. And then the other is we did have 5 full-time employees. That was part of our normal staffing. We did lay off a full-time employee in September of this year. And again, that was a funding decision to make sure that the department could get through for this year, knowing that we're still dealing with COVID repercussions. So I think we've had a lot of internal discussions, and I think that it would be best if we look at reorganizing our employee chart, our organizational chart, if you will. And we still want to keep that a full-time employee, but it would be a different program coordinator. And it's something that, it's not going to be implemented immediately because we still have to come up with a job description. But the reality is that, it's something that we do need to be able to fill that position. There's a lot of needs that are being asked of us, of our department. So we need to be able to have the staff, especially at the level that we had pre-COVID, to get us through that. So again, like I said, these are not any requests that are coming out of the general fund. If we were to implement these would only be covered by our department program fees. So any questions, concerns about that? I hear nobody, so I'm moving on.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So budget issues, I just wanted to touch on these really quickly before we get to the capital requests. And again, I'm just keeping you guys briefed of all of this because there are going to be some of these things that will come to town meeting, and I want you to be able to know about it ahead of time before we get there. So special events is that one area, again, where our program fees go to pay for those events and to keep them lower at no cost to those attending from the community. in surrounding communities. So what we had done in fiscal year 20, we had a transfer from our PRCE reserve fund to sort of get that special events line going, so that, you know, Tim had some money to be able to work with to get these events up and going. And he's done a phenomenal job throughout the years to do that. So, you know, because of COVID and all the issues that we had last year, that money's kind of depleted away. So we want to be able to start from scratch again. So that's something that we'll have to go to town meeting again and ask for that transfer from PRCE reserve. So again, this is not coming from the general fund or the town, it's the reserve fund. So that's something, you know, I'm working with Cheryl and Sean on that, trying to figure out what that certified amount is. I know Cheryl's working on that right now, just to make sure that that's something that, you know, I know we have enough to cover it, but it's just, we need that certified number. And then again, I know you all have been talking about space needs. And I know that, you know, the town's really in a very tight financial place. So this is just the place that I wanted to remind again that, you know, we have a continual need for space for our department. It's one of those things that in the past, we've been low on space available to us. And now, because we're in COVID-19, we actually have had very minimal space or had to go out and rent space to continue to offer programs to the community. So we've had a really great relationship with O'Neill Cinema, and we're really thankful for them, you know, working with us. But that's something that as we move forward, you know, for our department to really get to that place where we are sustainable on an enterprise fund, we really do need to have access to the space to provide those programming, the programming that's requested from the town. So just again, a reminder of the needs that Parks and Rec have for space. All right. So then we just have 2 capital requests this year. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible. I know we have a laundry list of things that we've kind of been pushing off year after year. And again, the Park Commission and the department didn't feel at all that this was the year to really bring in those other requests that we've had in the past. It's not the financial time to do that. We can wait on those items. So the 2 items that we have up here, I feel are both very important for us to be able to accomplish or to be able to get funding for this year. So one is the statistically valid survey. And I know this has come up a few times in the past. So I kind of want to go through why I feel like this is a very important project to be able to move forward with. First, you can see up here, I've got my little fun math problem. So Fred was really great. He worked with me and we were trying to figure out how do we statistically show the growth in town. I had a conversation with Diane. We tried to go the census route and we decided not to. So, you know, ultimately we went with, you know, how many new people are coming into town. So, you know, there's been a big housing boom in Littleton for the past 5 years. So there's been, you can see 719 single family homes and condos that have been sold and 203 new homes have been built. So if you know, divide that number, the 719 by the 3,025 single family homes that are here in Littleton, it shows us that we have about 23.7% residents that are new to Littleton, or they're new households. So, you know, that's for a town as small as we are, that's a pretty big number for a turnover here. So, you know, since I've been here in the department, we've not been able to do any surveys like this. And it's pretty typical for recreation departments to do these on a regular basis just to keep in touch with the community. So, you know, we need to hear from the public. We want to make sure that we're providing the services that they want from us or require from us. All of the statistically valid surveys that we have researched are guaranteeing a 98% accuracy rating, which, you know, those are phenomenal numbers. And the two big main reasons why I want to get this done and in this time frame of this fiscal year is that, one, it's going to continue to help me with the budgeting process to really let me dial down to the accuracy of forecasting what programs and services that we need to offer and really need to focus on. The same goes for facilities. Is it something that we have or has been on the capital request for years and it's not really wanted anymore? So those are the type of things we're really trying to figure out what it is specifically is needed so that we can create that strategic plan for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So then the other piece of it is the open space and recreation plan is going to be coming up in a few years. So that's something that was completed in 2016. And I was relatively new coming on at that time. So we didn't necessarily, or I didn't necessarily have the data needed to really, put in a good amount for the recreation department. I did what I could at the time, but I think if we have this information in advance, it would just make that report that much more solid. And again, that provides us the opportunity of getting grants from the state. So, having all of that in an orderly row, and we know how long some of the government process can take. So that I feel it's an essential request this year for that statistically valid survey. Okay. And then our second one and last one is the major equipment and repairs. And this is something that we typically do ask for year after year. It helps us towards maintaining the facilities that we're responsible for. And it helps us to pay for any surprise damages that come along the way. We have a lot of these, I'll call them little items where they're like a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there, where, if I came to you guys with a laundry list of all these little individual things, and some of them are surprises, we'd be here forever with capital requests. So, we ask for this, bulk amount of 40, it's 40,000. We've asked for 50 in the past. That's something similar to what TC was saying earlier. We were taking utility charges out of this account in the past. And that's something that, Cheryl enlightened us to that was something we needed to change. So the amount, there's a separate amount that goes into the budget for utilities. So we lowered the amount for the major equipment and repairs. That's just, a reminder of that. So, just as an example, the last couple of years we had the entrance columns at Castle and the Trees started to crumble, which clearly is a safety issue. So that was something we had to get a mason in there and fix that relatively quickly. We also had to pay for an arborist specialist to come in to remove a pine tree from Long Lake. We purchased the new dock at Long Lake. So one of the pictures that's up there, it's awesome and amazing. And we'll be able to, keep those sailboats for even longer because they're going to be stored out of water most of the time and just, put in because we used to moor them in the water. So now they're up on that dock. So it makes their value much, they last a lot longer, I guess, essentially is what I'm saying. So, we've updated security cameras at Long Lake, and then we installed wear mats at Castle and the Trees. So a lot of this stuff is just like little things that are really important that we need to be able to do for the community and to be able to make sure that, our parks and playgrounds are as safe as, we can make them. So, some of the major items that we have upcoming, we do have roof and wall leaks at Long Lake Bathhouse. So we do need to be able to fix those. We have to get a basketball court inspection at 300 King. The kayaks and canoes at the beach are really, really, really loved and worn. So it is the time to be able to replace that fleet. Repairing will no longer keep them afloat, if you will. So, we also have a 12-passenger van we bought used in 2009. And there's, playground equipment repair. We have to look at parking infrastructure at Fay Park. We did remove the swing set at Fay Park, so that's something we have to look at replacing. And then the other really big one, which, you know, we'll see if we can try to push that off as much as long as we can, is the resurfacing of the basketball courts out at 300 King. They're in really good shape, but they were resurfaced in 2015, and the manufacturer does suggest that you resurface them every 5 years. So, you know, we're at that time frame where we have to start looking at, you know, those type of purchases. So with that, do we have any questions?
I have a quick one.
Yes, Matthew.
When you say statistically valid survey, I assume you mean they guarantee that the sample of the town residents that they choose represent the whole town. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. So it's an outside company. We would have very little to do with them. And so they complete all of the work and they base everything off of the demographics in town.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I had a quick one too. Just out of curiosity, what playgrounds does Park and Rec maintain versus the schools? Because they had some requests around that as well. So, you know, Castle on the Trees, obviously, and Fay Park, but any others or?
So Fay Park, and then we also have one at Long Lake Beach as well.
Okay, that's right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Good plan, Alicia.
Thanks, Alan.
You guys are working hard.
We're trying our best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, great.
All right. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that this is a hard process for you all. So I wish you the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, everybody. Thanks.
So now we're on to the highway transfer station and landfill discussion. I don't know if we have if Chris is on the call yet, or we're very ahead of schedule.
He's not available at the moment, it looks like. I don't know if you want to go to Cheryl or to LCTV.
Sure, we can. Cheryl, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And I just spoke to Chris. He said he just needs about 15 minutes. So
okay, great.
He should be on shortly. And so the one thing I wanted to discuss with everyone tonight was the request that was approved last year, and then we ended up cutting it through the budget process. And that was the chart of accounts redesign, putting it back on here. Again, for approval, this is something that we did receive money from Community Compact for. So if we don't end up doing it, we will have to return the grant funding for that. That being said, I did get an extension on the grant. And so if there's not room for us to do it this year, we are allowed to push it out to next year. So ideally, I'd like to do it this year, but we do have the flexibility to shift that to next year because we were able to get an extension on that grant. So I'm, open to either or, knowing that there's constraints with capital this year. But I did want to make sure that that was stayed on everyone's radar as well. So,
Cheryl, how are you set for resources to be able to execute that?
So that's actually why I have the capital request, because it would be using outside resources to execute the redesign. And most communities, when they design their chart of accounts, utilize outside resources to do it because it's extremely time consuming. It takes a lot to get it right. And I think that's partly why we're a little bit in the mess that we're in with our chart of accounts, is because it was done mainly in-house. And so that's why we need the funding, is actually so that we can outsource the project to outside resources.
Great. Any other questions for Cheryl?
Yeah. So Cheryl, just to clarify, is the total cost 75,000, 20 of which is paid for by the grant, and the cap request is 55?
Correct.
All right. Great. Thanks.
And yeah, you're welcome. And so it's outside resources to help with the redesign, and then it's a requirement. We obviously have to pay Munis for the developer's time as well too, to develop the whole redesign. So it's the 55,000 or the total 75 pays for both pieces of that.
We don't have anything left on the Tyler budget for training
So-
or anything like that.
So we do, and we could utilize some of that, but I was really hoping actually to utilize some of that remaining capital to hopefully roll out time and attendance, which would help to make the payroll process more efficient, and just generally something that I think department heads and others would like to see. So we're not people aren't keying payroll in. So certainly we could utilize some of that funding for that, but that was kind of my thought process with the excess there.
Trust you.
How often would a study or a chart of like this need to be done? Once every 50 years? I mean,
If done correctly once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Ouch. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry, this is Betsy, one more. Is there a time when it's best to do that? Do you need to do that at the fiscal year or something like that? And so yeah.
Yes, there is. And that it's quite a lengthy process. So typically we would have the engagement, or we'd start that project in the fall, and with the hope that, not the hope, with the anticipation that then it would be ready at the start of the new fiscal year in July. So it is a fairly lengthy process, and timing definitely is imperative so that you're turning on the new chart of accounts at the very first day of the new fiscal year. And so it requires starting, like I said, end of summer, early fall.
So it's going to take a year for that to get in place, even if we were to approve the 55,000 now.
Yes.
So if we put it off another year, then we're 2 years down the road. We've had Munis now for what, 3 years? The new chart of accounts that we put together?
4, maybe?
Something like that anyway. So the chart of accounts then would be 5 years out, not being correct. So the sooner we do it, the better. Obviously.
I mean, I agree with that, Alan. And the other thing is that I will say that, obviously it impacts the finance department greatly, but, other department heads as well, too, who, we want them to use Munis and they have all that access. So, I mean, I'm still, a year and a half here, and it's almost impossible sometimes for me to find accounts. And so it's really hard for department heads actually to utilize Munis as well too, because it's very hard to find things. Things aren't where they should be. They're not named the way they should be. They don't make any sense. And so not just myself, but other department heads are spending time searching around for stuff, or they're trying to look for it. They can't find it. Then they email us and ask us, where's this account? And then I'm looking for it. So, I mean, not that that's that big of a deal, but it does have an impact on not just finance, but all the other departments as well too.
Thank you.
And we're running out of accounts, unfortunately.
We don't want that to happen.
No.
I think that transparency is important to all of us at this point. I think that's obviously a key part of this whole thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions for Cheryl? Okay, great. Thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are we still waiting on Chris? I see that Mark Crory's joined us. Oh, there's Chris. Perfect.
Oops. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Hold on. Don't turn that light down. Okay, that's better. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Fantastic. All right. Does everybody have the spreadsheet, I guess? So we know what I'm asking for capital? Can anybody hear me?
Spreadsheet's blank, Chris.
Oh, then we can fill it in with everything we need then. All right, let's go. Yeah, basically we're asking for our major equipment repair, which is $20,000. We use that to, obviously anything major that goes wrong with our equipment, transmissions. We've had to repair a frame last year, which was quite expensive on one of our big trucks. So that's what we use the $20,000 for. The other three things we're going for is, this is, I believe, the fourth year of 6 replacing our big trucks. The truck we're replacing this year is planning on the $175,000 for a 2000, to replace the 1993 10-wheeler. Obviously it's 20, I can't even do the math how old it is now. It's incredibly old. Almost 30 years old. So it's time. It needs to go. And then the other one is replacing Steve Witten's, the highway superintendent's truck. It's replacing a 2011 with just a basic F-350 single cab with a plow. And then the last item is this is $10,000, and what we're calling it is truck replacement stabilization. This was, if you guys recall, having the conversation regarding the trash truck, and we're able to save so much off the budget that the intent would be to put $10,000 a year away into an account so we could replace this truck when it comes time in approximately 20 years. That's all I got. It's pretty simple this year. Just a couple things. Obviously, we could ask for more, but I'm not going to, because I know the implications.
On that $10,000 that you would be earmarking for the replacement of the roll-off truck, would that go into just a general? Would that be specifically for the roll-off, to replace the roll-off, or would it be something that you'd be able to tap into if maybe the truck hasn't been invented yet that you need? Would you be able to tap into that reserve fund, or whatever that $10,000 a year is going into for a vehicle fund, say?
Yeah, I mean, my intention would be it would just be strictly for that truck because we're realizing the savings from the transfer station.
And that's where
but I guess
basically be funding it from, would be from the savings. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
There's.
How do we do that, Cheryl? I'm sorry. How do we do that, Cheryl?
I don't think you can.
Well, so my recommendation would be that the best way to do that would be to have it be a capital stabilization transfer, and in Munis, we can tag it as, highway or truck or something, so that it's clear that that $10,000 transfer, one, it would be voted and clear and spelled out in the vote at town meeting, but also if someone went into the Munis, you could see that was specifically for that truck.
I think we did something like this with the ambulance, and we started to do it with the fire engine too, the ladder truck, and we had saved some money for that purpose, but I think that was a little more general. We generalized it as a vehicle stabilization overall, correct?
Correct. I mean, and we didn't actually create the stabilization account, but we set it aside for that specific purpose in capital stabilization. Yeah.
Oh, so that was just like a wink and a nod. That wasn't really a stabilization fund.
Town meeting has to vote for that, so you have to vote to create it. So.
Yeah. So it's not a whole lot different than a major equipment repair fund, but we're just rolling it from. It's like AT&T rollover minutes. Just rolling over year to year. Okay. Don't use it.
So
roll it over.
Then we have another. Does anybody else have any questions about these ones? Because then I got another couple of things I would like to talk to you guys about.
This is one of the Beaverbrook at 119.
Oh yeah, has that already been brought up?
No.
No.
He just likes to steal your thunder.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I had one more question. Just I can't see the $10,000, Cheryl. Is that in the capital plan that we got? I'm not seeing that one line. I see the other three.
Yeah, it is. It says It's tagged transfer station and it's called truck replacement stabilization.
All right, I'll look again. Thanks.
Is there, I know, Chris, you've been pretty flexible and you've worked well with Matt for the plow truck situation for the police department. Is Steve's F-350 at the point where it needs to be replaced and there's no useful life left in it? Or is there something that we could buy some time with what the fire department's looking for and maybe roll that F-350 up the hill for a couple of years for them to plow their parking lot or whatever it is, to replace the F-350 that to give them something to replace the 2010 Chevy that they're looking to replace?
Yeah, I mean, we can fix anything. I mean, we're at the point now where we did have to put about 4,000 into that thing just to get it to pass inspection last year. We're starting to get some pretty good rot. Will it work? Yeah, I mean, we could put some new fenders on it and make it work for another few years. I mean, it's a matter of how much money do we want to keep spending on old stuff, and it's completely up to the board. And if that's the will of the board, then we have the technology and equipment and manpower to be able to probably do it. It's just a matter of how much money we got to spend to keep
I'm
fixing
not saying necessarily that this is the way to go. I'm just thinking that we're clearly going to have to make, Gary brought it up, we're going to have to make about $1 million in cuts. We're requesting over $1 million beyond what we have available to us. So if this is an area where we can put a Band-Aid on something for another year or 2 years, and you're looking to get an F-350, if we decided that Steve's F-350 needed to get replaced this year, maybe the fire department's doesn't need to get replaced this year, or it gets replaced with Steve's truck, or just kind of like it did in the past with the PD.
Yeah,
just trying to find creative ways to shave $60,000 here or there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm willing to work with anybody, if I need to. We can
demonstrated that and appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, we can work with whoever we need to work with if that's what we need to do. I don't have an issue with that. Okay, so a couple other things. One, the never-ending landfill project never gets cheaper. We received an email and a letter from DEP requiring us to do some additional testing and some additional monitoring wells based on some of the gas migration that we've been finding from the gas sampling. So we believe we're going to be over budget about $20,000 more this year based on the drilling costs and the additional sampling. Above and beyond, I believe, was the 118,000. Cheryl, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that's something we're going to need to incur again in 2022, FY22, but it is something that I wanted to bring up to both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, excuse me. We're kind of at the mercy of DEP, and we're hoping after this first year of testing, DEP will kind of lax a little bit and not have such stringent requirements, but unfortunately, I can't argue with them. I have to just kind of give in to what they want. So that's just kind of a little quick update that at some point, we're going to hopefully be able to try to save as much as we can, but expecting to have to come back around May or June for a transfer into the account for an extra, we're thinking up to 20 grand, but we won't know until the end. So that's that. On another kind of cool note, we just got an email, or I got a phone call today. So Beaverbrook at Great Road, if you guys would remember, about a year ago now, we came before you with a proposal to put that intersection reconstruction project filed to get it put on the state's transportation improvement program, the TIP, with the roundabout proposal that we had gone down and Mass DOT kind of blessed, so to speak, with the intention that the town was going to have to fund the full design, which would be right around 400 to 450,000. Obviously, we didn't put that on the capital because that's just wasn't a realistic thing. Well, I got a phone call today. We had our engineering consultant reach out to Mass DOT and ask what it would take for them to fund construction and design. They came back to us and said, if the town funds 25% design and takes ownership of Old Great Road, which are the two little dead ends off Beaver Brook, they would be willing to pave Old Beaver Brook Road, or excuse me, Old Great Road on both ends, and fund construction and fund design from 25% to construction and fund full construction. So it's a savings to the town of an additional $200,000 to $250,000. The caveat to that is we would need to fund 25%, which is about $200,000. So,
And it gets the project moving, Chris, right? Where it's right now, it's just a project number.
correct. So as of right now, we have a project number with Mass DOT, but we are not we're not funded with the tip because we don't have a design started or completed. This would allow us to move forward on the tip, and the state would take over all construction, like I said, the design from 25% on, permitting, the full gamut. All we have to do is get it to 25% design. And we take ownership of Old Great Road, which in the end of the day, it's 1,200 more feet of road, and actually helps us because it goes towards our Chapter 90 allotment in the end of the day. And it'll be brand new. They'll repave the thing, so it'll be brand new road. I wanted to talk to you, figure out if anybody had interest in moving forward with it, with this kind of an idea. Obviously, we have to get writing from the state, so then the board can vote to support that, so that way we can get moving. But this is the first, like, we literally found out. I was in Anthony's office at 3:00 this afternoon when I got this phone call. So this is why I'm bringing it up now. We had nothing else at this point.
So obviously this is nowhere on the capital plan right now.
Yeah, not on mine. Definitely not.
What's the 25% of, how much are we talking?
I'm sorry, what was that? Say that
What
again.
was the number again? 25% comes out to what?
So so we'd have to fund 25%, which ends up being approximately $200,000 back of the envelope. The way 25% design works, you would think it would be a quarter of the cost, but really the state front loads a lot of that. So 25% is really about 50% of a project, but the state calls it 25% design. That's why it's about 200 grand of the full 400. Again, that's completely back of the envelope, but we're kind of thinking it's in that range of 200.
And what's the time frame on this? If we say yes, or when do you have to have commitment or things like that?
If we were to fund this, we would get the state. I mean, right now I called our consultant back, and they're going to work on getting something in writing from the state as early as tomorrow to see if they can get that ball rolling. Realistically, if we could get a commitment from the town to pay for the 25% design, we could have the engineers on board within 2 or 3 months and start design. Hopefully to have 25% design submitted to the state by the end of the calendar year, with the intentions then the state picks it up and moves it forward from there. Knowing that it's a bad intersection, realistically, construction 3 to 4 years.
Chris, you've told us in the past this got an F, and every state evaluation, this intersection got an F. And the mitigation plan that they came up with was in fact a road, kind of like you have down in Sterling off of 190, basically a rotary, a roundabout, whatever they're calling them these days. So
yeah,
a round traffic mitigation plan. And that's what they're proposing. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, as part of the project, we have to do a full traffic intersection analysis now. But Mass DOT's position in Boston and at the district, you have to prove why a roundabout will not work in order to get them to fund a light. Because what happens is the lights are so expensive for them to maintain now that you have to physically prove why the roundabout will not work. And unfortunately, this intersection is a really good intersection for a roundabout. I mean, opinions can differ, but statistically proven, this intersection would be very well received with a roundabout.
With tractor trailer traffic and all that kind of stuff, it's still.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it would be designed for the full suite of vehicles that would use it.
And there's no way to drag that line back to the Beaverbrook Bridge to try to get that as part of the project. Not with this project. My hope would be if we can get the state to build this project
then we could kind of pressure them to say, well, you built that one, you have the point, we have one bottleneck right in the middle. District 3 knows that it's a problem. District 3 also knows it's going to be very, very expensive to fix that problem. That's why they haven't done it.
Yeah. Split on both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully if we can get the ends, then we can maybe meet in the middle somehow and get them to fix that too.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, couple of questions. First, on the old Great Road, you said they're going to repave, but are they going to look at drainage too and address any issues if there are any there?
Yeah, if Mass DOT before they would turn it over to us, it would be in perfect shape. It'd be very similar to like a subdivision road where they would meet. I mean, their standards are way above what ours are anyway, or as well. So, but they would bring everything back up to, I guess an A rating, 100%. So before we took it.
Okay. And then the second question, kind of pivoting off what Chuck was talking about with a roundabout. Are there statistics that show where the amount of traffic makes sense for a roundabout versus where it doesn't? Because it seems like there's an awful lot of traffic on 119 to justify putting in a roundabout versus a set of lights.
Yeah, I believe there is. I think Mass DOT District 3, and I can reach out to them. They do have a bunch of data on this because you're not the first town that's questioned a light versus a roundabout. What I will say is this roundabout would have almost what I would call a dedicated lane for Great Road to be able to going, I guess, towards 495, to be able to almost bypass the roundabout, so to speak. So that way you have a lot of traffic, but one leg kind of has its own dedicated lane. So it's not all the traffic is interacting directly into the roundabout. We have some conceptuals. I can share them with everybody. I believe I've shared them with the select board, like I said, a number of months ago now, but I can share it with everybody. Purely conceptual, but it does give you the idea of what it would look like theoretically. We've run models through it.
Makes sense. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And you're comfortable with that, Chris? I mean, you feel like, yes, that would work?
The roundabout or the proposal?
Yes. No,
Oh, yeah. I think roundabouts are safer than, in the end of the day, a roundabout is the most safe. It creates the least amount of conflict points. And it's way safer for the pedestrian traffic. I mean, I know we don't have a lot of pedestrian traffic out there, but there is some. And it does, my opinion is a roundabout is the safest alternative in this location. And I think traffic wise, what you end up finding is traffic lights specifically coming off Beaver Brook. You try to beat the green, you beat the yellow because you're like catching it, all of a sudden it's a yellow and you go. And next thing you know, it's way more dangerous. With a roundabout, we don't have that issue. And roundabouts are very well vetted through. Like I said, I'll reach out to MassDOT and get some of I know they have a bunch of data on this and I can share it with everybody.
Yeah, at the MMA over the past few years, a number of engineering firms have been touting exactly that data and explaining why why the roundabouts are the way to go.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of the same questions, Greg.
Yeah, the one at Route 2 and 2A at their prison is great.
That's a rotary. That design is not great.
Okay.
That one's not great.
Ask Anthony about Medford and Malden. There's plenty of them down there.
Yep, we have tons of those are rotaries. Although they're making them into roundabouts now.
Flyovers.
Yeah.
Casinos paying for flyovers.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, and so last but not least, we have LCTV on the call.
Somebody's going to have to nudge them.
I'm sorry. Hello. Good evening.
Mark, you got a little drool.
The old saying, last but not least, or save the best for last, or what is it? Somebody give me one.
Whichever you want.
You got some drool on your shirt.
You're just last, Mark. We got nothing for you.
All right. Well, I've got good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is the LCTV budget still costs the town $0. That's good news. It's the best news. The bad news is for the first time, we're going to have to start taking a little bit out of our piggy bank fund that we have been storing up for the past decade or so, to fund it's mostly to fund staffing, because we're so busy that we are increasing from 2.5 to 3 full-time staff members. And I guess I could go on and on about why we decided to do that now, but I think our stock as LCTV has never been higher in the past year with COVID, and just being able to organize all these Zoom meetings and keep them running and keep people informed and do what we do. And sometimes people look at LCTV as one channel, but we're actually running 3 here in Littleton and 1 in Boxborough. So, for 3 people running 4 channels, it's a lot of work. So that's the main reason why we are looking at boosting our production coordinator from 20 hours to 40 hours. The other thing I'll just throw out here, for many years, because I think of an oversight by the town, it kind of benefited us because the town was picking up the benefits portion of our department. I was under the assumption that it was all coming out of our big fund, but I guess apparently it wasn't. The town was paying for the benefits, and it paid for them for probably 7 or 8 years. But that was discovered when Cheryl came through the door. And so, rightly so, we are paying for our benefits as well. So because of that added expense, that did start to drive our numbers up a little bit. We haven't seen a decrease yet in our funding from Comcast and Verizon subscribers. Everyone's always talking about cutting the cord or cutting the cable, and at some point that may happen, and they've been talking about that for the last 10 years, but we haven't seen that yet here in Littleton as far as our revenues from those 2 companies go. So that's good news. So, what I would like to say is that if the town did decide to pick up the benefits portion of LCTV only, we would be able to cover all our expenses with what we take in and what we give out. So that's the amount that we're eating into our piggy bank is just about the same amount as the benefits cost. So something to think about. So if you wanted to have us be kind of a zero self-sustaining department for many years to come, that might be something that, to look at. But at the current rate, if we start to eat into our little budget here, our piggy bank, it's about a 6-year run rate before we deplete that piggy bank.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Mark, it's Greg. Quick question for you with the receipts that you're getting from Verizon and Comcast. I mean, have you been able to kind of project out what that looks like 2, 3, 4 years down the road?
No, not 2, 3, 4 years down the road, because they change. Sometimes a lot of, their numbers are going down as far as subscribers, but they keep raising prices. So it equals out in the end. But the only thing we can do, Greg, is backtrack and see on that kind of chart if our funding has gone down, and it really hasn't.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't think any of us expected you to be so front and center this year, or last year. But I have to say, you've done an extraordinary job, and it's really been an important part of the community effort for the whole town government. And I know that you guys have been working long hours, and I know that the halftime person is definitely been working more than halftime. And so I think that's it's well deserved. And I appreciate all the work you've done.
I agree. Thank you.
And Mark, you have 6 years to develop some action TV to help pay for this problem.
Yeah, that is true, Gary. And I know that we are, we're looking at alternative funding, sources. There's always the pay-per-view route, people could pay per view for programming, but I'm fundamentally opposed to having public access, be a fee-based thing. Everywhere you look, there's fees these days. So if we can keep it free and public, free to the public and as cost efficient as possible, I think that that would be the best route to go. But
we need to keep those 5 viewers that watch Fincom meetings on the channels.
You'd be surprised how many people watch. We're not tied into the Nielsen's or anything, but we are able to track some viewership certain ways. But it's a popular. Our government channel is very active. I look at other towns around this area, and they usually run 2 or 3 different boards and committees. We run 11 regular boards and committees, and then the specials that come up. And now with Zoom, the ones that we don't cover live, we're able to rebroadcast when we just have them recorded, like Housing Authority and the whatever that other thing is. There's so many running through my brain right now. But
committee.
One good thing I just want to mention, the reason I'm in the studio tonight, because we were covering a basketball game. We've been just started last week, but because parents and fans can't go to the basketball games because of COVID, we stepped up and we offered to stream all the home games live. So parents, we had 1,000 views on the first boys basketball game, which was, I know there's only 12 guys on a team, so I don't know where all these people are, but I think people are starved for entertainment, especially high school sports. And, Littleton has a very active booster program and people that just love to watch their teams, their old alumni or whatever. And I was very encouraged that many people tuned in for our first broadcast. We did a girls' game tonight. Wasn't as many, but still, just to be able to offer that to people, and that's just another service we provide.
The families are very appreciative, that's for sure. I've heard from a few of them. Thank you.
And Chuck, you'll be glad to know we're going to add 4 hockey games to our repertoire as well. So
let me know if you need to, if I need to loosen up the pipes.
Yeah, we'll be calling you.
For you.
We'll
I'm
be
not sure if
calling
Fontanella can call hockey.
No, he's a basketball guy and football. Anyway, that's it. Thank you. If anybody has any questions.
Anyone?
Okay.
And that's it, Mark.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before you cut me off, I just want to say beast mode.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. All right. Good night, all.
Big day. Big day.
You got it.
Thank you.
Good night, Mark. Thanks.
Love you, buddy.
Okay, so that was concluded our final presentation for this evening. So now, lots of great information, I think. And, we've got our work cut out for us this year, certainly. So, my thought process is, taking time to digest what we heard tonight and then coming back and having another meeting in February to further this discussion. The other thing that's coming forward as well is we've had some significant progress on the space needs with respect to a senior center. And we're anticipating having a presentation before the select board with LLB early February. So we'd like to have that presentation first and then reconvene this group to further review the capital and budget requests that were presented to us tonight, if that's agreeable to the group.
Yep. Good.
Hey, could I, Chair, could I actually make one statement as I was looking over the numbers for the capital, just something that maybe people could think about and talk me down from an idea. A big portion of this is an $800,000, the admin wing cafe roof replacement. And I'm not sure if I heard them right. They mentioned they're kind of doing a whack-a-mole right now. Is that what he kind of used that term?
Yeah.
If we were to continue to do that for another year, make that the #1 priority next year to be done, and we use a whatever Fincom reserve to help continue that whack-a-mole for a year, and knock out maybe the alumni lights or the high school rooftop HVAC, which I think he said was not all that important right now because of the filtration system. I'm not sure if I caught that right, but those two alone balance our budget. And this we could do all other capital requests. We could throw the $45K of these unexpected repairs that I noticed a few of the departments have been asking for unexpected vehicle repairs. I don't know, maybe that should probably also be a reserve fund transfer type items. And I know, Cheryl, you might have talked them into putting those on there, but I kind of like those in a Fincom realm as far as reserve fund transfers. When these things happen, we find out about them and it kind of reinforces, okay, we have an aging fleet or, and we do the reserve fund transfer, usually without question on things like that. But I think we can get really close to balancing a budget if we get a little bit creative, looking at next year and saying, hey, that 800,000 is earmarked and let's just talk the rest of the capital budget. So anyway, the number was just so big that we could do it. Chuck, go ahead.
Wow. Wilson took over the meeting, huh, Madam Chair?
Well, I'm just, these numbers, I've been writing these numbers out. It looked like, I don't know, what was that movie where the guy's writing all over the walls there?
Right.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Good Will
One of
Hunting,
them.
yeah.
How you like them apples,
Beautiful
Wilson?
mind.
I like them
Beautiful
apples.
mind. Thank you.
Oh, Betsy, you had to make me look bad. Thanks. As everybody knows, I had a big role in alumni getting done, but I would respectfully disagree with you, Mr. Wilson, as far as getting those lights done. It is not ideal, but it is extremely functional. And this is not, I don't think this is the right year for us to do that. I think there are other things that we can do to try to illuminate that the end zone closest to Whitcomb Field. So that's the only thing. The one thing that when you said that, I said, I don't think that's where we should make it up, or we should spend there and not somewhere else. But that's money I think we can throw back into the pot to be reallocated or pushed out another year or 2 years or whatever it happens to be. We could potentially do that through some sort of fundraising effort, spelling sponsorship. I'm not exactly sure, but we've been able to have some very, very effective sporting events on that facility with the lights in the way that they are right now.
Chuck, what about the Friends of Alumni Field?
That's a possibility. I mean, the money, those monies that they're raising, as it's my understanding, are to replace the carpet, down the road after the useful life has been exhausted. But there's that possibility, certainly. I mean, I know that they're selling bricks and
Right.
I just don't know that if that's so. Right now, that is number 5 on their DMVC capital list. I wouldn't. I mean, even I hope Mike Lynn's not listening because he's going to hate me. But the auxiliary gym and the mats and the floors and the gyms.
Right. So, I mean, honestly, I really would prefer just to table this discussion in general until we talk about the senior center. And have that presentation before the select board and see if that's going to get into this mix at all, this discussion.
Yeah, you know, I'm right there with you, Cindy. So I'm okay with that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think
even,
that,
even
I
the
mean,
400,000 for the MSBA, unless the MSBA is demanding that we spend $400,000 on a feasibility study right now, which I don't think is the case, because there's plenty of towns that are fighting for those dollars. If we're not ready to do that right now, then we're not ready to do that right now.
Yeah. Okay. Madam Chair?
yeah, go ahead, Mr. Glady.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to use this raise a hand function, which is completely unlikely. But but in case anybody thought I wasn't listening, I agree with Chuck. I appreciate what Gary says and what he's trying to accomplish. But I have a couple of basic problems with the suggestion. Well, three. I'll just wrap it up this way. One is I don't think we should be trying to accomplish, the mission shouldn't be to award, or to find a way to fund every request. That's not our objective. It's to consider all requests and then to fit it in. It's not like it's an accomplishment if we find a way to fund everything. That's not, I think we have a more basic mission. The second of all is the use of the reserve fund. That's I would rather, if we did decide those were all things that needed to be funded, that we consider it more within the structure of the actual budget. Otherwise, we're changing the meaning of the reserve fund, which is that it's there for unanticipated expenses. And how can it be unanticipated if we're sitting here planning for it during our budget process? That doesn't work for me. And thirdly, I think in my more and directly to Chuck's point is, we've got a couple of things out there still that need to be resolved. One of which, obviously, a big one on the capital end is the prospects for the senior center. And I don't think we have a fully thought out. We don't have a fully resolved proposal for the building department, in that it may involve some changes to the Board of Health staffing component. It is just a few moving parts. I'm very impressed that we're at the point we are right now in the month of January. We're very close to a fully gelled budget picture. And I don't think we need to rush to finalize it when there's a couple of important moving parts out there. And I guess that's, well, I'll leave it with that.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, so like I mentioned, we're going to have a presentation, I think, early February regarding the senior center project. And then I'd like to continue this discussion and schedule a meeting after that select board meeting and revisit all the requests that came before us this evening. Where's Anthony? What's the date of that select board meeting that we're anticipating LLB will have some information for us?
February 8th.
Okay. So then we could schedule a joint meeting following the select board meeting on February 8th. And to Paul's point as well, we could have some more information with respect to the building department and the health department, because those discussions are still ongoing as well, as far as staffing goes.
And we also have the new wrinkle with the Beaver Brook, the 200,000 for that, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we also need to keep in mind that fiscal 23 and 24 are challenging years for us. Is that correct, Cheryl? Saying that?
That's correct. Yes, Greg, that is correct. And thank you for bringing that up. Right now, the estimate for available capital for 23 is about $1 million.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's, just, it's kind of the effect of COVID on our free cash, which then trickles down to capital a couple of years after. So, I think the next couple of years for available capital funds is going to be fairly tight.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we need to consider that, especially if there's something we're trying to get another year out of. We may need to try to get 2 or 3 years out of it, like a vehicle or something like that. So something to consider as we're weighing out all our options.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm hopeful that somebody in the finance team bought some Mega Millions tickets for tonight as part of our strategy.
I bought
Some of them did.
I bought that if I win, I'll fund the senior center.
Amen.
There you go.
Ditto.
It's a deal.
Build it privately, then donate it so we don't have to pay prevailing wage.
We're gonna do for the next hour and a half, Cindy.
I know. This is
I was
it.
trying to balance a budget. Are you guys okay? We can call it a night. I can.
Yeah. No. Right. No. I do. There are some open-ended matters that we do need more information on. I think before we can have a informative and healthy discussion about what we heard tonight. So, I think that's it.
Awesome.
We'll circle back and reschedule a meeting after February 8th. Go ahead,
Cindy?
Anthony. Sure.
Sounds good. I'd like to.
1 second, Alan.
Go
Before you adjourn, I mentioned to the select board today that we got some sad news of Joe Colentro's passing over the weekend. Had the opportunity to work with Joe real closely, obviously with the fire station, which was his last project for the town, and somewhat for Alumni. And I know that what he put in then. So sad news. He'll be missed for sure.
That is sad news.
He's definitely left a legacy in Littleton. Yeah. Good man.
Thank you, Anthony, for mentioning that.
For the Fincom, remind everybody that we're going to meet on the 26th. We'll discuss some of this then, and if there's any callbacks we want to do. So put that on your schedule, 26th at 7 p.m. for Fincom. I'll get an agenda out the next couple of days. That's all I have, Cindy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments for anybody? Chuck's talking, but he's muted.
Motion to adjourn the select board meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made
Cindy,
and
you wish you
seconded.
had that control over me, don't you?
I
That's you,
know. I had to talk to Mark about that. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, Mr. DeCoste,
I'm in favor of adjourning.
Mr. Nordhaus,
Yes.
Mr. Glavy,
Yes.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
and Cindy Napoli is aye. So the select board is now officially adjourned for the evening.
Fincom, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, and a second to adjourn. Betsy Bowling,
Betsy's yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Gary Wilson,
Yes.
Tyler Gray,
Tyler Graves, yes.
and the incomparable Tom Perrell,
Yes.
and Alan McRae is a yes. We are adjourned.
Excellent. All right, great. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.